Ladies and gentlemen, I want to speak to you today about something that sounds controversial at first. Teaching someone the price of ignoring you, but if you look deeper, this is a lesson not about dominance or manipulation, but about self-respect, social dynamics, and psychological boundaries. You were not born to beg for acknowledgement. The moment you place your sense of value in the hands of another, you've given away the only currency you truly possess, your self-respect. The validation you seek outside yourself will never satisfy the hunger you refuse to feed from within. If you are ignored, let it be a revelation, not a wound. The world does not owe you attention, and neither does she. And yet, your worth is not defined by who chooses to recognize it. A man who needs to be seen to feel valuable is not yet a man. He is still a boy waiting for permission. When you require someone else's gaze to feel real, you are lost in the mirror, not standing in your own skin. You must become the kind of individual who is formidable in absence, not desperate in presence. If she ignores you and you chase her, you are confirming her power and denying your own. Stop trying to prove yourself to someone who's already chosen to look away. That is not strength, that is surrender. There is something deeply dangerous about ignoring your own intuition for the sake of being chosen. You already feel the disrespect, the disregard, the diminishment, but you silence it because you're afraid that walking away will make you invisible. But what if the opposite is true? What if walking away is the first time you are fully seen by yourself? Self-respect is not just an internal feeling, it's a standard of behavior. It's choosing to step away when you are not honored, not because you hate the other, but because you love yourself enough to demand more. Every time you seek external validation, you delay your own maturation. You are not here to chase those who run. You are here to build a foundation so immovable that people have to rise to meet you. If she ignores you, let that be her lesson, not your suffering. When you collapse in the face of indifference, you show the world how cheaply you'll trade your dignity. Do not give your energy to those who cannot recognize its weight. You are not a performance. You are not a plea. You are not a product. You are a presence. Act like it. The more you chase someone who avoids you, the more you convince yourself that your worth is negotiable. The tragedy is not that she doesn't see you, it's that you stopped seeing yourself the moment she turned away. That is the wound, that is the betrayal, not hers, yours. There is no empowerment in trying to force someone to value you. That's not love, that's addiction. It is not romantic to keep proving your worth. It is degrading, and somewhere deep down you already know this. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If she ignores you and you reward that with more attention, what have you taught her? That her silence is more valuable than your presence, that your desire is greater than your dignity, that your pursuit is stronger than your standards. That is not noble. That is not brave. That is self-erasure. You cannot be respected while being ignored. Those two realities cannot coexist. You must become the man who walks away, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. She has told you everything you need to know without saying a word. Listen, you are not being rejected, you are being redirected. But only if you choose to respond with self-possession rather than desperation. When you stop chasing, you reclaim your center. When you stop needing her to see you, you begin to see yourself for the first time. There is no value in convincing someone of your value. If she cannot see you, do not hand her a spotlight. If she cannot feel you, do not shout. If she cannot meet you, do not kneel. You are not less because someone failed to recognize you. Often those who ignore us are simply incapable of appreciating depth. They are tuned only to noise, not signal. Let them go. Not with hatred, but with understanding. You are not here to decorate someone else's ego. You are here to embody your purpose, with or without applause. External validation is a drug, and like all drugs, it will rob you of your ability to feel anything real. The more you depend on it, the more hollow you become. The tragedy is not in being ignored, it's in forgetting who you were before you needed to be seen. Self-respect is the antidote. It is the foundation. It is the fire. And if you build from it, you will never again be held hostage by someone else's silence. A man must know when to stay and when to walk. And walking away from disrespect is not cowardice, it is leadership. You are modeling how a man should act when his worth is denied. Not with rage, not with begging, but with disciplined detachment. Let her wonder where you went. Let her feel the void you left, not because you wish to hurt her, but because you refuse to hurt yourself. Your value does not rise and fall with her opinion. Her silence does not reduce your voice. Her distance does not erase your gravity. And if you think it does, you have not yet met yourself. So meet yourself, stand in the mirror and remember who you were before she became the standard. Reclaim that man, build from that place. Let her see what she ignored. Let her question her silence. Let her wrestle with your absence. The world is full of noise, be the signal. The world is full of men trying to prove, be the man who simply is. The world is full of desperate energy, be the calm force that moves without need. When she ignores you, don't react. Evolve, grow, rise. You do not need to win her back. You need to win yourself back. Because the man who does not need to be seen is the one worth looking at. And the man who walks away with self-respect will always walk taller than the man who stays begging for validation. Every action you tolerate sets a precedent for how you will be treated. Social hierarchies are built on a foundation of consequences, not feelings. When you allow someone to ignore you without response, you are communicating that your presence requires no respect. In any hierarchy, personal, professional, romantic, that message is suicide. You are not just being dismissed. You are teaching others how far they can push you before you break. If they find that you never break, they will keep pushing. And eventually, you won't be a person to them, you'll be a placeholder. People do not respect weakness disguised as kindness. They do not admire submission masked as patience. They do not elevate those who accept disrespect silently. The harsh truth is this: you are always being evaluated, always being tested, always being weighed. And if you reward dismissiveness with loyalty, you are demonstrating your own irrelevance. You're signaling that your attention is cheap, that your standards are negotiable, and that your boundaries are imaginary. In a social structure, that's not compassion, that's self-annihilation. Every time you allow someone to treat you with disregard, you degrade your own position in the hierarchy of value. You don't rise by appeasing those who look down on you. You rise by refusing to stand under them. You are not a doormat. You are not a shadow. You are a force. And if they don't feel your boundaries, they will never respect your presence. If someone violates your dignity and faces no consequence, why would they ever change? Why would they grow? Why would they stop? You cannot expect others to value what you do not protect. If your time, your presence, and your energy are handed out freely, regardless of how you're treated, then don't be surprised when people treat you like an option instead of a standard. People don't remember your intentions. They remember your behavior. They don't care what you meant. They care what you did when tested. If someone ignores you and you stay, they learn. If someone belittles you and you smile, they learn. If someone devalues you and you continue to show up, they learn and they never forget. Power dynamics are not abstract. They are played out in every ignored message, every unanswered call, every dismissive glance. And if you respond to those dynamics by shrinking, you're confirming you're placed beneath them. Social hierarchies reward those who make themselves necessary, not those who make themselves invisible. When someone pretends you don't matter and you respond by proving otherwise, you've already failed the test. You've reinforced their assumption, you've surrendered your leverage, and now you're not someone to respect, you're someone to manage. Do not tolerate patterns that strip you of your identity. One small allowance today becomes permission for tomorrow's disrespect. One passive response plants the seed of long-term imbalance. The hierarchy doesn't care about your excuses, it only registers your position. When you climb down to meet someone's indifference, you will not be welcomed, you will be trampled. And the worst part, you'll do it to yourself, one compromise at a time. The moment someone begins to treat you as less than worthy, they are asking a question. What will you allow? Your answer defines the rest of the relationship. This is the test. And it is not verbal, it's behavioral. You don't need to scream or threaten or convince. You only need to act in alignment with your standards. Walk away and the hierarchy adjusts. Demand nothing and the hierarchy collapses. Stay silent and your position erodes. Act with self-respect, and even those above you must recalculate their posture. Every social exchange is a negotiation, whether you realize it or not. If someone gives you less and you accept it, you've settled the negotiation in their favor. If someone mistreats you and you continue offering more, you've declared your value to be negligible. And once you've given that declaration, it's very difficult to undo. It's not about revenge, it's about structure. You can't build a stable hierarchy if people can ascend while ignoring accountability. The hierarchy here behaves as a system. And if the hierarchy is a warrior, the hierarchy is demanding. You cannot maintain self-worth in a system where your presence is optional and your boundaries are porous. Being a good man does not mean being endlessly forgiving. It does not mean absorbing disrespect like a sponge. It means being grounded enough to walk away when your worth is denied. Because when you refuse to participate in a broken dynamic, you send a message louder than any confrontation. This will not continue. And that message echoes far beyond one relationship. It redefines how others see you, and more importantly, how you see yourself. You were not born to orbit around people who treat you like a background character. If someone demotes you with their actions, respond by removing the privilege of your energy. There is no virtue in staying where you are undervalued. There is no honor in staying accessible to those who only recognize your worth when you withdraw. And if they only remember your presence when you leave, let that absence become your answer. There is a gravity to discipline that changes the atmosphere of any relationship. When you show that behavior has consequences, you become unignorable, not through force, not through drama, but through consistency. That is power, that is order, that is influence. And it is influence rooted in truth, not manipulation. You don't need to punish anyone. You simply stop allowing them to write the rules of the game. You create new rules, higher rules, rules that respect the structure of mutual regard. In any meaningful connection, your absence should be felt when you're gone. If it isn't, you were never integrated, you were tolerated. You don't fight for a seat at a table that has no space for your dignity. You build your own table and let others earn their invitation. This isn't pride, it's hierarchy management. The same way ecosystems maintain balance by removing toxic elements, you maintain personal power by stepping away from patterns that erode it. The man who disciplines his environment disciplines his future. Let others call it arrogance if they must. Better to be called arrogant for upholding your worth than praised for abandoning it. They don't have to understand your silence. They don't have to agree with your distance. They only need to learn that there are lines that do not bend. Let their discomfort be the tuition they pay for disregarding you. Let your detachment be the classroom in which they learn what it means to lose access to value. You are not cruel for withdrawing. You are not heartless for refusing to be ignored repeatedly. You are simply aligned with reality. And reality is this: people repeat what they can get away with. Behavior that costs nothing never stops. If she ignored you and faced no correction, what incentive does she have to treat you any differently tomorrow? You think your devotion will inspire change. It won't. Only consequence does. Only withdrawal does. Only standards do. You don't need to beg for better treatment. You need to require it, and if it's not given, you need to leave. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to enforce the laws of human dignity. Because the most dangerous thing you can do in any hierarchy is train people to believe that their neglect is harmless, that their coldness is free, that their indifference carries no cost. Because when there are no consequences, there will be no change. And when there is no change, you are not in a relationship, you are in a hierarchy that devours you. There is a language stronger than argument, louder than anger, more undeniable than pleading: absence. When someone violates your worth, you don't need to yell, you vanish. Because your absence is not a retreat, it's a declaration. It's the unspoken sentence that cannot be interrupted. When you are gone, people are forced to confront your value without the distraction of your voice trying to remind them of it. Presence can be manipulated, absence cannot. People take for granted what is always available. What costs nothing is treated like it's worth nothing. As long as you remain accessible while being dismissed, you're reinforcing the illusion that your presence has no price. But when you leave, truly leave, in silence, without tantrums or threats, you trigger something deeper than guilt. You trigger reflection. When your voice stops echoing through their life, they are left with their own. And that silence becomes the judgment they tried to avoid. A man's absence is not passive. It is strategic. It is calibrated power. It is the final word when words have failed. You don't teach someone to value you by explaining. You teach them by removing the very thing they assumed would always be there. You cannot force someone to see your worth while you're still standing in front of them trying to prove it. Step back. Let the void speak for itself. Let the silence stretch. Let your absence become the mirror they didn't want to look into. Most people don't change because they were convinced. They change because they were disrupted. Absence disrupts. It fractures comfort. It breaks the autopilot of someone's disregard. If she is used to you always showing up, always responding, always reaching out, then disappearing is the only act left that holds power. You are not punishing her. You are instructing her through action that your time, your attention, and your care were not default settings. They were earned, and now they are gone. When a man disappears with purpose, the silence he leaves behind is thunder. It rattles the internal world of the one who ignored him. It exposes their entitlement. It confronts their assumption that you would always be there, no matter how they treated you. Absence is the only force that cannot be argued with. It doesn't debate, it doesn't apologize, it doesn't negotiate. It simply is. And that is what makes it terrifying to those who relied on your presence without gratitude. You are not obligated to explain your withdrawal to someone who ignored your presence. If they didn't listen when you were near, they don't deserve access to your reasoning when you're gone. Your silence is not pettiness, it is protection, it is preservation. It is the reclamation of a boundary that was violated too many times without consequence. You are not withholding, you are restoring balance. You are reminding both yourself and them that you are not a background character in someone else's story. To vanish without warning after being ignored is not cruelty, it's clarity. Because people do not hear your words after they've decided you are beneath listening to, but they feel your absence when they thought they could survive without you. That's the paradox. The one who seemed indifferent suddenly begins to scan for what's missing. And what's missing is your presence, your energy, your reliability, the things they mistook for weakness. Now they sit in the echo of their own miscalculation. Do not let them grow comfortable disrespecting you. If she does not feel your exit, then she never valued your entry. If she does not notice your absence, then your presence was never integrated, it was only exploited. The man who stays to be ignored is choosing to erase himself in real time. The man who leaves is not disappearing, he is asserting. He is telling the world, I am not here to be tolerated. I am here to be valued, and if I'm not, I will be somewhere else. Absence tests more than presence ever could. Anyone can pretend in the moment. Anyone can fake affection, interest, regard, but absence reveals the truth beneath the surface. If they forget you the moment you leave, you were only a convenience. If they regret your silence, you were essential. And now they have to live with the reality that their failure to act with respect cost them something irreplaceable. Let them learn you don't need to teach. Your silence is the curriculum. Men often confuse persistence with strength. But true strength is knowing when to stop showing up. True strength is restraint. True strength is knowing your presence has gravity, and if it's not honored, you withdraw it without drama. The man who can remove himself without losing himself is a man who cannot be controlled. He is ungovernable. Because his worth is not on loan, it is sovereign, and his absence becomes the proof of that sovereignty. Do not waste your breath defending your exit. Your exit is the defense. Your silence is the verdict. Your absence is the law. When people fail to feel the cost of your distance, you were already discounted long before you left. But when they feel the walls close in after your departure, when the air feels heavier, when the laughter stops sounding the same, then they know. They know what they had. They know what they lost. And they know it's too late. You don't chase people to remind them who you are. You become so absent that the memory of you haunts them, not as revenge, but as consequence. Not out of anger, but out of self-command. You don't disappear to hurt, you disappear to heal. You disappear to rebuild. Because returning to a place where you were once ignored only guarantees the cycle will repeat. and now you know better. Now you've seen the result of being too available. Now you understand that presence without recognition is imprisonment. Never underestimate what your absence teaches. It teaches who is real. It teaches who will reach. It teaches who regrets. And most importantly, it teaches you who never deserved the seat at your table. It reveals the structure of the bond, not in what they said when you were there, but in what they did when you weren't. And in that revelation, you gain clarity, clarity that no amount of begging or proving could ever give you. The world does not respect desperation. It rewards decisiveness. When you go silent, when you walk away, when you stop responding, you're no longer playing their game. You've flipped the board. You've changed the rules. And now they're left looking for the player they thought would never stop trying. That's when your power begins. That's when your absence becomes legend. That's when she finally realizes that ignoring you came at a cost she cannot afford. You are not measured by how long you stay. You are measured by the impact you leave behind when you stop. And that impact should be undeniable. It should be etched in memory, not because you forced your way in, but because your withdrawal created a silence so loud it couldn't be ignored. Because when absence is handled with strength and certainty, it becomes the boundary they never saw coming. It becomes the truth they can no longer escape. It becomes the answer to every moment they failed to see you.